Welcome to Sports Nut Central. We're nuts about sports.
We have a special guest today. This is a first for us and a great privilege for us as well, as we welcome in Montreal Canadiens forward Dale Weise. Thanks so much for joining us today, Dale.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're back in Montreal now, doing your 7-day quarantine. How's that going, and how are you feeling about the return to play format?
It's been crazy. For the last 4 or so months, I've been at home with 4 kids every single day, all day long. So it's been nonstop crazy to come here and isolate for 7 days and be by myself. It's been pretty boring, but I've had a lot of opportunities to catch up on some other parts of my life, which I haven't had a chance to lately. I've done a lot of reading, and it honestly has gone by pretty quick. I got 3 more days, 2 more negative COVID tests, and I'll be back in action.
Now, I know it's only been less than a week, but how are you thinking in terms of if the Canadiens go on a run here? I mean, it could be a little longer till you see your family again.
Having to be away from your family is not an easy thing. It's not fun. Like I said, I got 4 young kids. Puts a lot of burden on my wife. She's having a time. We got 1-year-old twins and stuff, so puts a burden on her. So it's difficult. And then who knows how long this is going to go for? Like you said, if we make a run, this could easily go into late August, September. They released the dates the other day where the Stanley Cup final could be the first week of October or whatever it was. So this could be a long haul. So I think the toughest part is not knowing how long it could be.
How are the rest of your teammates feeling? You don't have to name names, obviously, but how are the guys feeling about this entire return to play format?
Yeah, I think, first of all, everyone was excited when, it came out that we were going to have a chance to get back in the playoffs. I think, when you're a team that's not even close to the playoffs, season shuts down in mid-March, you're like, holy smokes, this could be a long off season here. And then, you get an opportunity to come back in the playoffs and play for the Stanley Cup, which is obviously everybody's end goal. But I think there's optimism, and then I think there's just a lot of uncertainty still. You look at the baseball situation where there's a lot of guys showing up positive, and basketball, there's teams that haven't even traveled to the bubble yet, and they're having some issues. So I think everybody's a little apprehensive about how it's going to go when we transfer from, right now there's 5 guys skating and working out at the rink in groups, as opposed to, July 13th, we're going to have 35, 40 people all in a small area for training camps. So I think everyone's optimistic and excited about what the potential is, and then obviously, a little nervous on the other side.
And you're only human, right? I mean, that's only fair to each and every one of you guys. Kind of a quick sort of turn here about, I'm curious about Wow Moms, because I've noticed that you're a businessman. You and Lauren, your wife, are business owners right there in Brossard in Quebec, right up the street from Montreal. That business is pretty versatile. It's got a lot of nutritional, and there's a lot about it that you can tell us. So why don't I just let you do that?
Yeah, thank you. It's something we're very excited about. We looked at opening a franchise location in Winnipeg probably about 4 years ago. And then, we were just too busy, so we didn't get the opportunity, but we stayed in touch with the CEO, and, we talked about different locations. And then she actually asked us if we'd be interested in partnering with the location in Brossard, which for us was a no-brainer. It's a business we truly believe in. My wife and I have playing in all these different cities. There was just never a place we could take our kids and actually just kind of relax and eat a healthy meal or do something with our kids that wasn't like a McDonald's play center. Don't get me wrong, I love McDonald's, I love their play center, but our place is so much more than that. We got a cafe, we got swimming pools for private swimming lessons for kids 4 and under. We have any kind of gym class that you can think of, with your kid, with your dad, with your mom. We have so many different variations there. Amazing play area. We have a retail section. We can do birthdays. We have a laundry list of spa treatments that we can do. We do hair, we do nails. It's just kind of a one-stop shop for her families, which is I think something that just every city, every market needs.
So it's called Wow Moms. The website, would you be able just to give us the website as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to www.wowmomsworld.com. That'll take you to the main webpage, which sources you out to every location. You can just find ours. Click on Brossard, you'll get the address, it'll give you the information. You can fill out classes there. I encourage any fan, anyone that wants to learn about it, that wants to know about it, direct message me. I'm very approachable. We love to have as many people coming through right now as we can. Obviously, things have been a little slow. We were set to open March 27th was going to be our grand opening, so we were leading up to that date, and obviously things got shut down with COVID, but we're slowly opening up now. With the procedures and the structure of trying to make it as safe as we can for families.
Well, it sounds like an amazing business, and there's so much to do, right? So I have a question about your wife, Lauren, because your last Q&A with Montreal Canadiens fans, you talked about how it took about 3 months for her to get back to you about going out.
I met her one night, and I was at a party, and we had a couple friends, and then I tried to get her to go out with me from then, and I couldn't really get her to go out with me. She'd kind of make these excuses all the time and be like, well, I'm busy doing this, I'm busy doing that. And then eventually I convinced her, and then, I won her over from there.
Well, it seems like things worked out pretty well. You guys have your own business now, and it's right in Broussard. But go ahead, you guys.
Yeah, kind of going back to the whole bubble and the COVID and the return to play. I'm just curious on your thoughts about the NHL kind of holding their cards real tight with the positive tests. You see in baseball, seems like every day they're just releasing names all over the place. Basketball, same thing. And then you look at hockey, like Steve Simmons reported the Austin Matthews positive test, and he just got blown out of the water on social media. I'm just curious on your thoughts about the NHL kind of holding tighter on the privacy of guys' names as opposed to letting it out to everyone. Me personally, I am a St. Louis Blues fan, so to see the news yesterday come out that there were staff and players tested but no names or anything, just your thoughts on the privacy part of it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think there shouldn't be any secret behind it. I personally think it should be public information. Basketball is coming out, like you said, baseball is coming out. They're being honest with it. I don't know if maybe the NHL is doing something different. The only thing that I could contest to that would be that, not all of hockey players are in their cities that they're supposed to be yet. I'm pretty sure in the next couple of days, guys need to be getting there, if they have to do their quarantine or whatever. But I think we just haven't tested as much as the other leagues. And then I think once we get down to training camp on the 13th, I think maybe they'll be a little more forward with the information. But I agree, it's been kind of secretive, and I don't think it should be that way. I agree with you. I think everybody should have the right to know who's getting and how many guys are getting it.
Yeah, just kind of to follow up, like once everyone's in the bubble cities and the hub cities, you would almost think that the NHL would have to start releasing that information based on when games are going, when guys mysteriously stop playing. You guys are in a series, Carey Price posts a 40-save shutout, plays unbelievable like always, and then all of a sudden 2 nights later he's randomly not even dressed. You would think at some point as guys start disappearing, because there are going to be positive tests, unfortunately, you would think eventually they're just going to have to get over that hump and be public about it and honest with people, especially for you guys as players. Like, I think you guys being in a hub city with that many guys, if someone's potentially having it with testing positive, I think as a player you would want to know kind of, okay, maybe I should keep a little further distance from whether it's a teammate or that team if it's another team kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think once we start playing, I think 100% things will be a little more transparent. I think they'll come out and say, this guy tested positive, this is who it was. And then, like you said, I think it'll be pretty obvious for us to see, Carey Price post a shutout, and then all of a sudden he's not playing the next game. I think you're going to know why. But, yeah, you know what? We went through the protocols last week. The NHLPA did with us. And once we get into the bubble, it really is pretty strict. There will be no opportunities where guys are going to have it and be around anybody. You'll know prior. We're testing every day. Like, there'll be nowhere to hide. So I think the NHL, just from what they've laid out and the game plan of how they're going to do the bubble, to me seems pretty good. or the best that I can be in a situation like this. And we're dealing with something that's never been done before. So, like you said, I think there's going to be some positive tests and there's going to be some spreads. It's going to be a difficult situation. The thing that gets me is, we're practicing in 5-man groups right now. And then by the 13th, bang, we're in training camp. It's going to be 30 guys on the ice. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we can contain it and obviously hope the spread doesn't continue throughout other teams. And, when we get in the hub city, you got 12 teams, potentially a couple teams in the same hotel. It's going to be wild.
And if they kind of, I don't know if you're allowed to reveal the information, but have they kind of said what the protocol is going to be for someone testing positive? Like, are they going to be sent out of the hub city or just kind of put aside to quarantine themselves?
Yeah, I think, the way things are going to be laid out before you even leave your room in the morning, the hotel rooms, you'll have an idea of what's going on. You'll be tested the day before. So, you'll be on lockdown in your own room as soon as you have a notification that you have it or anything like that. You'll know before you leave in the morning. So you'll be stuck in your room if you have it.
Okay.
Dale, how does the game change once we actually begin to playing again? It's been almost 100 days now since we haven't played a hockey game. The game itself, how does it get affected by COVID?
Good question. I think it's going to be really – you watch preseason hockey, it's an absolute nightmare. It's just so scrambly. You can see how rusty you guys are, and I think that's what we're going to have. I'm sure majority of the guys have been skating maybe for the last couple of weeks, but it's not like you have a lead up. When guys are playing in September, that's after an extensive training program, June, July, August. You're in training camp and you're ready for these preseason games. As well as guys are conditioned in the NHL, I just don't think guys have skated enough. And that 2-week window for us to have training camp is probably not enough time to work out the kinks. So, it's good. The first couple games are going to be interesting. It's going to be scrambly. I don't think it's going to be as physical as a normal playoff game. And it's going to be interesting.
You're a player that played, of course, with Montreal, then was sent to other teams. Talk about your return to Montreal and what it means to be playing back in the Canadian city of Montreal.
It was no surprise for me. It's no secret. Montreal was my favorite place to play so far. I had my best years in my career in Montreal. I truly enjoyed the fan base, the city. I invested a business in the city. I love it so much. So, coming back to Montreal the second time, I was really excited for the opportunity, and it was different. Obviously, the first time I came, I was fresh. It was the first time I played, and then the second time was a little different. I came back. I got sent to the minors. What was it, for one day? I came up. I played 3 games. Then I went back down to the minors for a week, and then I finished the season. And then coming back this year, going back to the minors. So, safe to say the second time didn't go as well as planned and that such. But it's always an honor to play for the Montreal Canadiens, my favorite team growing up. It's always an honor to put on that jersey.
How have you embraced your role with the Laval Rocket? I know it's got to be a challenge because you obviously want to play with the big club, but you seem like a pretty positive guy and willing to embrace any role you're given. So how are you able to, sort of manage that mindset of being maybe a mentor and a player on the Laval Rocket and then having the Canadiens use you when they need to?
It was really tough for me, to be honest with you. First half of the season, I really didn't expect to be there. And then to be playing as little as I was playing down there was really frustrating for me because I was at a stage where, I'm not old. I keep myself in great shape. I got a lot of good hockey left in me. And, to be put on the 4th line in the minors, and they're pretty much like, well, just be a good leader and be a good example for the guys, which, to me, I'm like you said, I'm a really positive guy. I would never let that show in my personality. I would never let that show to my teammates. I came to work every day. I worked hard. I tried to be a good influence for guys and be a sounding board if they needed me. But it was really frustrating because I didn't feel like I belonged there, and I still felt like I had a lot of NHL game left in me, and to go there and play such a minimum role was really frustrating.
I can imagine how I mean, I only say imagine because I'm not a pro hockey player, but I can imagine that must be tough. But were you able to sort of find comfort in the fact, like you said, you invested a business in Brassard? No matter what your future looks like as a Montreal Canadian, do you feel like Montreal is going to be home for you for a long time?
I don't know if it's going to be home. Definitely, the business will always be here. It's not a short-term fix for me. It's something I definitely see. The Brassard where it is, he isn't even finished yet. So that development's going to be beautiful when it's all done. There's a ton of residential buildings around there. I think the business is really going to thrive. So it's kind of cool to have that tie to the city. I'll always come back and visit and be a part of it. And like I said, I've had some great moments in Montreal. I truly love the city and the people, and it's definitely a place I'll always come back and continue to be a part of the community.
Well, I have another fan of yours here. I don't know if you're a fan of dogs. I'll show you my little pug. He's got his Habs jersey on. He's the logo is right there. There it is. Maybe what helped you agree to interview with all of us, but there it is. And we appreciate you, man, no matter what. And I just want to ask you also about the success that you had. I mean, the 2014 playoff run was just crazy. I still remember when you first came. Roberto Luongo was your old teammate. He's across the ice. And you said, man, Lou, I love it here. And you're kind of going on about loving being a Canadian. Just talk about, when you first arrived, and then, of course, the crazy playoff run you went on in 2014.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't expect to be traded. That was kind of the first time I was traded mid-season as a hockey player. So it was different for me. And to go from, a place in Vancouver where I wasn't getting much of an opportunity to come to Montreal to a team that wanted me, a coach that believed in me and was going to give me an opportunity. That was kind of the, I don't want to say the starting block for my career, but that was kind of how I took off. And then, we got into the playoffs and I wasn't even sure if I was going to be in the lineup in the playoffs. And then, I scored the OT winner in the first game. That kind of solidified my spot in the lineup. And then we took off from there. It was so cool. It was the funnest time I've ever had playing hockey. You couldn't walk on the street where people weren't screaming at you or something like that. You could just feel the buzz in the city. Every game at home, I've never heard a building as loud as that. When the anthem's going and it's just so loud, it's there's not a better feeling as a hockey player.
Now, you went from being in Vancouver, being in an elevator with fans after a game who were just at the game you were playing in and they didn't recognize you. And then you go to Montreal. I remember seeing this feature in File in 2014. You talked about the difference and the transition. So what was that like when you just almost became like an instant celebrity?
Yeah, it was cool, man. What I really appreciated it because I just felt like the Canadiens fans appreciated someone that worked hard. Where, in Vancouver, like you said, I could literally be in an elevator with someone, they wouldn't have any. If you weren't the Sedins or Ryan Kessler or Roberto Luongo, they would have no idea who you are. And I think I really embraced the fact that people finally knew who I was and appreciated my game. And I think that kind of put a lot of confidence in myself and kind of really, really helped my game get to another level.
And you seem to have some crazy chemistry with Danny Briere. He assisted like on 3 of your biggest goals. So who were your favorite line mates to play with during that time? Danny must have been one of them because he was feeding you some great passes, man.
Yeah, it was, him and Ilya Kovalchuk are probably 2 of the guys for me that I was just the biggest fans of growing up. I was a huge Danny Briere fan. So it was kind of a wow moment when I got a chance to play with him. And then, to play on the same line as him, I learned so much in 2-3 months with Danny that, that'll last me for the rest of my life. Not even in hockey, but just he's such a good person and a tremendous hockey player. I honestly can't say enough good things about him. I really loved playing with him in the playoffs. Just little subtle things. We weren't playing a lot, and I'm sitting beside Danny Briere. I'm sitting there like, man, how is this guy not losing? And he's playing 3 shifts a period. And his attitude was just incredible. He would always tell me and Michael Porterville, we played quite a bit in the playoffs there, just stay ready for our next shift. Don't worry about what's going on. Don't worry about how much we're getting out there. Just worry about our next shift. And it was just, his leadership was big for me. And then David Desharnais, I felt I had a lot of chemistry with him. It was 2015, and we played together. Me, him, and Patch played together quite a bit. So that was 2 guys that I had a lot of fun with. I was very close with off the ice. and really enjoyed playing with them.
Well, I was surprised to hear about the origins of the Dutch Gretzky nickname that you got, because we loved it as Habs fans, and then we found out from, again, your Q&A that the Vancouver media had a negative spin on it. I just want to say, Vancouver media, you messed up. But we embraced you as that. So have you been able to change the definition of that nickname?
It's got a positive spin on it now. I really enjoyed it. You know, like you know, you've heard the story in Vancouver. To me, it was like I was battling media every day because they kept calling me that, but it was used in such a derogatory way that it would piss me off. So when I came to Montreal, all of a sudden it was used in a positive light, and people loved it, really got behind it. I'm looking in the stands, I'm seeing T-shirts with it and stuff like that. So, you know, when I made the switch to Montreal, the people made the difference, and that was huge for me.
Well, we definitely missed the flow a bit, man. I got to tell you.
Oh, it was
not that you look.
I cut it and had my wife cut it like June, man. It was as long as I've ever had it. I was ready for the playoffs. I just couldn't do it. I was going to the lake. The bugs were eating me in my hair and stuff, so I had to cut it short.
Okay, I don't know if you realize this, Dale, but you made an appearance in Ron MacLean's book, Hockey Towns. This is from 2015 or so, I believe. Now, we have a future guest coming on hopefully soon, Zenon Konopka. You had a tilt with him. This is Vancouver.
I don't twice that game.
It was twice. Okay, yeah. So I know that this may not have been the best picture of you that you wanted in Ron MacLean's book, but you're in Ron MacLean's book.
Hey, awesome.
Yeah, so I just wanted to see, because it, you know, anyway, but now you know. So I was surprised that you did know. I thought somebody might have passed that along to you.
Oh, that's when I've seen that. That's awesome.
This is the cover of the book here, by the way.
Unreal.
But, just had the pleasure of speaking with Ron, obviously. And so going forward, Dale, regardless of, you know, the uncertainty of your future at the NHL, right now you're on contract till the end of this playoff run at the very least, as far as we know. Do you have any sense at all about your future as a Montreal Canadian or as an NHL player?
Good question. You know, to be honest with you, I've explored a lot of options. You know, I'm not legally, you know, I'm bound by contract with the Montreal Canadiens right now, but, you know, when that's up, I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you. Like I said, my experience in American hockey this year, I did not have a very, I did not have a very enjoyable time down there. So that's kind of, I don't know if maybe just the situation that I was in kind of ruined it for me, but that's, I would not be interested in playing the American Hockey League anymore. I think I've had enough of that. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, like crazy. I'm not opposed to going overseas and seeing the world a little. There's so many options in Europe for hockey players. With the way the NHL looks next year, who knows what's going to happen? You know, with escrow and probably looking at 20% escrow next year and stuff like that. So, you know, financially, does it make more sense for me to go to Europe and stuff? I don't know. So that's something I'll have to address when you know, when we get through this, and I'll talk it over with my family. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but there's so much uncertainty with that too.
Now, this season, you did get the chance to play your 500th NHL game. So as much as you were battling the experience of playing in Laval and maybe not enjoying it as much as you would have liked, what was that like to get that honor of playing your 500th game and it be in Montreal?
Yeah, that was big for me. You know, the way things were going the first couple months there, I thought that was probably it for me, to be honest. I didn't think I'd get back, and you know, to come back and play 500 games, that's a big feat for me. I don't think, you know, starting my NHL career, if I said I'd play 500 games, I'd say, you know, I probably think you're joking. So that's something I'm extremely proud of. I've had to earn everything that I've gotten. I still continue to earn everything that I've gotten, and you know, that's something that nobody can take away from me. You know, retire in a couple of years and say I played 500 games in the NHL. That's something you can always hang your hat on.
Dale, just what are your thoughts on when you do leave the NHL, when that may be? What are your legacy thoughts, or how do you want to leave the fans of Montreal knowing that when you do leave, what do you want to leave behind for the fans?
You know what? I just, like I said, I was so proud of my accomplishment to play 500 games. My legacy and what I'd want fans to think of me is obviously a guy that worked his hardest every night. You know, I've always been a guy that prides myself on work ethic, pride myself on being a good teammate, being a good person, and I think that's all you can ask for. I just would want people to look at me and say, "Man, that guy played his balls off every night," and you know, that's all you can ask for.
And finally, the one question I wanted to ask is the media, of course, you talked about it can be really tough at times, depending on the market where you may be in the league. Night in and night out, you could be playing a back-to-back or 3 games in 6 nights. How tough is it to jump back mentally, even if you had a bad couple of 2 games in a row, bad games, and the media is all over you guys? How do you find your rhythm to bounce back quickly for the next game?
Yeah, you know what? As much as people try to pretend they don't read media comments or they don't read their Twitter comments, like anybody that tells you that, they're bullshitting. Like, let's be honest. Everybody's checking feeds. Everybody's seeing what people are saying about them. As you get older, you kind of get a little more headstrong and mentally stronger that you can kind of handle some of the negative thoughts about you. But, you know, when you're a younger guy, it's tough. It's really tough. When things are going tough for you and the media's all over you and everybody, every armchair GM on Twitter is letting you know you suck. Like, it's really difficult as a young guy. So that's where, you know, you need some older guys to kind of pick you up and have that experience. And as a group, you need those guys that kind of pull the group together and say, look, you know, this is our team in here. Let's focus on us and let's respond. And I think that comes down to leadership.
And one last one, Kev, before you jump in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Favorite memory so far playing in the NHL, whether it be with Montreal or any of the other teams?
Favorite memory. Well, it had to be a couple moments in the 2014 run. Obviously, my first playoff goal as an OT winner. You know, beating Boston, take any moment in that series was huge for me. And then, you know, there's just every moment from that run I just had the funnest time playing hockey. We had such a good group of guys. And I truly mean that. I know a lot of people say that about their teammates, and once again, they're lying to you. I truly did enjoy that team, and it was such a close group, and just that whole run for me was incredible.
Yeah, my last question kind of goes back to Spencer's question about the media and what you're saying with the teammates and stuff. With the new hub cities and everything going on, how is that going to affect team chemistry off the ice and, you know, not having the freedom to kind of go out with the guys and everything like that? And from a media standpoint, obviously a lot of the interviews and everything are going to be completely different now. You know, commentators not even being in the arena and doing it off screens. How does that affect everything as well? Like you said, all the armchair GMs on Twitter, and it's easy when you're in the room to say, okay, you know, this is our group, you know, who gives a shit about them? But what do you think is different now that you're not really going to have as much time as a group off the ice, maybe with everything going on, to kind of push all that aside? And, you know, because when you come to the rink, business is business, like, you know, put your nose down and grind hard. You don't have that extra freedom outside of the rink with the guys because of everyone kind of being somewhat locked down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. You know, most of the time when you're on the road, I know every team I've been on in the playoffs, you get on the road, we have like a suite in the hotel where everybody hangs out at nights when we're, you know, on the off days when we're not playing, everybody's in there and we're hanging out. I think it's going to be difficult now because I don't even know if that's going to be allowed. I'm pretty sure every guy's going to be in their own room, and, you know, there's no group hangouts and stuff like that. So I think that's some of the funnest times when you get in the playoffs and you're on the road and it's just the boys and it's strictly hockey every single day. I think you really get dialed in. So we'll have that effect where everyone's going to be focused because that's really all you can do. But I think, you know, the camaraderie of everybody being together and stuff like that, like you said, is going to be difficult because you won't be able to hang out as much. You're not going for dinners at night and kind of shooting shit like that. So it's going to be hard mentally just being by yourself all the time.
Well, Dale, thanks again for doing this. Obviously, I'm a little biased as a Montreal supporter. I tried to be neutral with what I'm even wearing today.
Andrew, there's nothing wrong with
I've seen
that.
you
Nothing
play
wrong with
in
that.
Buffalo. Well, I appreciate that. But Dale, this has been a real treat for us as just hockey fans in general. And we'd obviously love to have you on again. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. And me personally, you're one of my favorite Habs ever, man. That's the truth. And we just thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate the kind words, guys. I would love to come back. Thanks for having me.
Sports Nut Central. We're nuts about sports.